I can't even count how many times I heard a teacher or a parent say, well, he writes his name backwards, he must have dyslexia. Or her B's and her D's are reversed, so it looks like we're dealing with dyslexia. So I'm confident that a reversal doesn't seal the deal. Let's talk about struggles. You gave us a whole list of strengths, but in your experience, what do the struggles of these dyslexic students look like in classrooms? And while I mentioned a few common comments, what are the classic errors that you would typically see?
I'm so glad that you led with reversals, because while reversals are part of dyslexia, they're certainly not the whole thing, and dyslexic students cannot read backwards. What a cool trick that would be. But that's not it. At its heart, dyslexia is a memory struggle, and so the students are having a hard time with memory. It's theorized, and I would believe this from my experience, that a dyslexic student needs 30 to 40 repetitions to remember what a non-dyslexic student remembers in 3 to 4.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that's a lot of repetition. That goes to math facts. I'm thinking multiplication facts here. It goes to memory verses and having to memorize the memory verses. Things like states and capitals or the presidents in order. Also, in recognizing words. A dyslexic child, think first grade reading circle. They're the ones that are sounding out the same word 3 times on the same page and perhaps coming up with a different word. Or they're the ones that are writing a story and spelling the same word several different ways on the same page. Those are typical of dyslexia. They have trouble remembering standard writing form. I'm talking capital letters at the beginning of the sentence, end punctuation, space between the words, and spelling definitely is a struggle. Copying is hard for a dyslexic student. Accurate copying, even of something from one page to the next, and definitely difficulty when something is on the board and the child has to copy it onto their paper.
Oh, yeah.
That's
And we use screens, right? So many screens in classrooms. So imagine that
yes.
struggle.
It is very hard. They have writing struggles, and we can be talking legibility or we can be talking content. Either side of writing is difficult for a dyslexic student. Of course, poor, it's slow, and inaccurate reading, that's kind of the hallmark of a dyslexic student. But I would add to that, Jenny, I'm going to call it puzzling spelling. I'm not going to call it poor spelling, because many times when I look at a work sample that a teacher sends me, I can see the pattern of what the child is doing. It's not correct, but it's not just random letters written on the paper, but it's puzzling. They do not understand the code of how words should be spelled. I would say slow processing is another thing that is characteristic of dyslexia that teachers can see in their rooms. And by that, I mean they just are the child that needs extra time, maybe even to formulate the answer to a question when the teacher calls on them. And they had their hand in the air. The teacher called on them, but they need just a beat or two to get their answer out. Sometimes a helpful thing a teacher can say is, do you need a hint or do you need time? Just asking them, which one do they need? And you can help them over that little hump.
Enjoyed this short clip? That was just a sneak peek into a full episode on the Teacher Edition podcast. We are passionate about supporting Christian educators like you. Looking for more inspiration and practical strategies you could use today? Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by BJU Press.